I can't stand you. Not your attitude, not your words, none of it.
Ever since I became pregnant with our second daughter, Joan, my mother-in-law, has somehow adopted a confrontational demeanor. I couldn't hide my surprise at the drastic change. But that's another issue entirely. I couldn't suppress my anger, thinking about our home being left in shambles. And to involve our eldest daughter. Unforgivable as a parent. Absolutely, I won't forgive. Am I just supposed to stay quiet after all that's been done?
I'm going to teach Joan a lesson.
I made up my mind. My name is Alice Stevens, 35 years old. I'm a full-time homemaker. Married for 10 years, my husband, Thomas, and I lead a peaceful life. We have a 7-year-old daughter. Her name is Mia. She's a real sweetheart, our pride and joy. Just a little while ago she was going to kindergarten, but now I'm dropping off my daughter, who's become an elementary school student, at school again today.
Take care, sweetie.
Mia, living her life happily, had been giving me strength without me even realizing it. Indeed, children grow up incredibly fast. One day she'll become an adult before I know it. Thinking about her having a boyfriend, getting married, and leaving our home makes me sad, but if that's the path Mia chooses, I won't stop her. Although I ponder such things, when I think about it calmly, Mia is still only 7. We still have plenty of time together. I decided to fill that time with as much love as possible. Since we don't have many children in our family, Mia has always been the center of affection. Joan, my mother-in-law, was one of those who adored her. Alice, how's Mia doing?
She's doing great.
Is she using the notebook I got her?
Yes, she loves it.
A week ago, Joan bought a notebook for Mia. When I told her that Mia was enjoying it, Joan seemed delighted. My father-in-law passed away a few years ago. Living alone in her house must be lonely. That's probably why every time she sees me, Joan always asks about Mia and Thomas. Talked to my mother-in-law today. She was asking about you and Mia.
That's just like her.
Thomas seemed pleased when I told him about the conversation with Joan. That was a few months ago. A new change had come about in our family. Unbelievably, we were having another child. This came to be a few weeks after Mia turned 8. From the examination results, we found out it was a girl. When we broke the news to the kids during dinner, Mia stopped eating, her eyes sparkling.
A little sister? Yes, Mia, you're gonna be a big sister.
When I said that, Mia was overjoyed, raising her arms in celebration. Seeing this, Thomas too seemed delighted.
A girl. That's awesome.
Whether it was a boy or a girl didn't matter one bit. We were just happy to welcome another life into our family. That day, the conversation revolved around this new life. Mia was especially excited about becoming a big sister. We spent the evening imagining what it would be like once our family grew to 4, places we would like to visit, things we would like to do. The next day, I decided to visit Joan, who had always been good to us, and tell her about our new child. When I arrived, Joan greeted me with a warm smile.
So, you're having another baby. Congratulations.
Thank you. Joan blessed us with a beaming smile. So, is it a boy? It's a girl. I was certain that Joan would be thrilled. I figured she would shower the new baby with love, just like she did with Mia. I was excited to see her reaction. But to my surprise, Joan's face fell into a clear frown. Oh, I see, a girl. I was taken aback by her upset attitude. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Just as I was about to break the silence. I actually had something to do. Okay, you should go, you should go. Unexpectedly, she asked me to leave. I was so taken aback that I left without being able to ask why she had turned upset. Was it something I said? That was the only thing that crossed my mind. Could she have been upset about the baby's gender? No, that couldn't be it. After all, Mia is a girl too and Joan adores her. Could the problem lie with me then? On the drive back home, I kept wondering what might have upset Joan. I came home with a heavy heart and began doing my chores. In the afternoon, I went to pick up Mia from school. How was school? What did you do today? I asked my usual questions. Usually, Mia would react with joy, but today was different. She stared at my face. Then, she said simply,
Mom, you don't seem well today.
Mia then placed her hand on my head. I wondered if she was imitating me. Yet, I was impressed. She observes people so well. I tried not to show my troubled mood, but it seemed like Mia had seen right through me. I hugged Mia and stroked her head. Fast forward about 2 months. There was another change in our family. Surprisingly, Joan wants to live with us. The reason was because I was pregnant and she wanted to help with household chores and taking care of Mia. There had been an awkward silence since the day I announced the gender of the baby, but her offer to move in and help lightened my mood. I wasn't disliked after all. I was hopeful that living together with Joan would deepen our bond. I was harboring such faint hopes. Originally, Thomas had a good relationship with Joan, so he seemed happy about the idea of living with his mother again after so long. If Joan and I didn't get along, it would surely trouble Thomas. I steeled myself and began preparations to live with Joan. But my hopes did not come true. Joan seemed to harbor some resentment towards me. Since we started living together, her demeanor had been rather cold, and she would pull faces at the meals I cooked and the chores I did. She had initially said she wanted to help with the chores, but since we started living together, she hadn't lifted a finger. She just kept bossing me around.
What's with this food? It's too plain. I wonder how Thomas puts up with this kind of food. I bet he has a complaint or two.
If you say so. I have never received a complaint from Thomas. But maybe it wouldn't be strange if he had some complaints. As I thought about the meals I've prepared so far, Joan smirked and spat out these words. Maybe he's got another woman on the side, you never know. Even as a joke, I didn't want to hear such things. Thomas would be fine. I believed that, but when I heard it out loud, I was taken aback. Seeing me downcast, Joan just laughed even more. And to add insult to injury, Joan told me.
A woman like you will be dumped sooner or later. Just be prepared.
She then proceeded to eat the meal I'd prepared, which she'd said smelt of poverty. She was clearly making faces as if it tasted awful. I wish she wouldn't bother eating it if she's going to be like that. I could painfully feel my mental state being chipped away by Joan's words and actions. Fortunately, Joan was very kind to Mia. Mia seemed to be fond of her, which was a relief. But I couldn't shake off the suspicion that Joan might be doing something to Mia when I wasn't around. I found myself harboring such doubts. I had subtly asked Mia what kind of conversations she was having with Joan. But Mia seemed to enjoy talking about school and study, things like that. Complicating matters, Joan played the role of the good mother-in-law in front of Thomas. Alice dear, is there anything bothering you? Please feel free to talk to me about anything. Thank you. Without any proof, opposing her here would only be disadvantageous. I managed to force a smile and listen to Joan's talk. However, 4 months after we started living together, my belly was getting bigger, and honestly, I was getting tired of dealing with Joan. If I felt ill and fell asleep on the sofa, she'd wake me up and scold me for not doing housework. When I couldn't serve a decent meal because I couldn't stand the smell of food, she would bring up her own pregnancy and tell me how incompetent I was as a wife. I was fed up with this life. I knew it was late, but I made up my mind and decided to consult Thomas. Can we talk a little about your mom? Mom? What's up? I told Thomas how Joan had been treating me. It was painful to remember everything that had happened so far. I didn't realize that. I'm really sorry. Thomas believed what I said. And then he told me a surprising fact. Actually, Mom has always been stubborn, or should I say bad-tempered. If something doesn't go her way, she gets upset right away. I hadn't noticed because it hadn't happened lately, and I'd let my guard down. I'll talk to her. I hadn't imagined that Joan had such a personality. With my tired mind, I thanked Thomas. But Joan's attitude did not change. In fact, it might have gotten worse than before. The frequency of her ordering me around increased, and lately, she even stopped making her own drinks. Joan, can't you at least make your own drink?
Shut up. Don't give me orders. I don't care if you're pregnant or what, you're a housewife, and it's only natural for you to do everything around the house. When I was pregnant.
And so began Joan's self-praise. You and I are different people, so our hardships must be different too. I wanted to tell her off, but I just didn't have the energy. I continued to listen to Joan's story so as not to upset her. Living that way, I had a strong ally besides Thomas. That ally was Mia. It seemed Mia could sense my mood. It was astonishing how perceptive she was for an 8-year-old. Of course, I was aware of how unfair it was to make a child worry about me, and I felt guilty. But I couldn't bring myself to cheer up. That's when Mia spoke up.
Mom, are you okay? You seem down.
Do I?
Yeah, you're not smiling at all.
It seemed she sensed something from my facial expressions and my mood. I apologized for making her worry, but Mia, with a smile on her face, said,
I'll protect you if anything happens, Mom. You don't have to worry about anything.
When did she grow up to be such a reliable kid? While I was happy as a parent, I also had mixed feelings. After that, Mia began to look after me more. Mia had begun to keep her distance from Joan. Perhaps she'd witnessed Joan shouting at me. Joan tried to win Mia over, but when she couldn't control her as she wished, Joan started acting cold towards Mia. What kind of adult does that? Such a selfish person. I was disgusted, but if Joan ever harmed Mia, it would be too late. I began to pay more attention to Mia.
Mom, are you okay? Tired? I can help you with the dishes.
After that, Mia began to help out even more.
Thanks for your help. Well, you're pregnant. It looks hard.
Mia happily picked up the dishes from the drying rack and started wiping them. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Joan's face looking very displeased. She probably didn't like that we were helping each other. I didn't care. If she had something to say, she should just say it with her usual gusto. I thought about this as I worked with Mia. Several months later, my due date was approaching. When I gave birth to Mia, there were no particular issues, but this time, due to the stress, I was not feeling well and had to be hospitalized early. The one I was worried about was Mia. If she were to be victimized by Joan while I was away, it would be unbearable. After some thought, I came up with a plan. The plan was to have Mia come to the hospital after school. It might be a burden on her, but luckily, the school and the hospital are within a reasonable walking distance. If Thomas could pick her up after work, both Mia and I would feel at ease. After all, there would be no issue with Joan being home alone. She should be doing whatever she likes. I proposed to Thomas and Mia, and both of them agreed. 1 week after the proposal. Finally, the day of my hospitalization arrived.
Mama, I'm coming to visit you.
Thank you, I'll be waiting. I sent Mia off as usual and started making the final preparations to go to the hospital. Joan, who had been watching, seemed grumpy as always, but today she seemed somewhat happy.
Finally, the day has come. I wish you would just not come back.
Say whatever you want. This hospitalization was brought forward because of you, you know.
Huh? I haven't done anything, have I?
The stress at home caused my health to deteriorate. It's all because you keep complaining. Knowing that I won't see her for a while, I vented all the things I had been holding back.
I'm the one complaining. I haven't said anything. When I was pregnant.
I'm tired of that story. Tell it to someone else.
You're an ungrateful woman. You should listen to what I say.
I ignored Joan's rant and continued with my preparations. Eventually, even Joan, who had been making a fuss, seemed to realize it was futile and disappeared without a trace. When I looked at the clock, it was almost noon. I grabbed my bag in a hurry and headed to the hospital. Life became quite comfortable after being hospitalized. I didn't have to hear any complaints from anyone and didn't have to do any housework. Although I was worried about giving birth, it was far better than my usual life. Once I give birth, Joan will probably leave in a hurry. No, it would be a problem if she doesn't leave. I need to discuss with Thomas and somehow create some distance. I really want to get back to living just with my family. I was absent-mindedly thinking about this on my hospital bed. At that time, I saw a short shadow in the ward. It was Mia.
Mama, I'm here.
Welcome, have a seat. Mia happily took a seat. Then, she slowly took out a piece of paper from her backpack.
What's this? So cute. I drew this today. It's a picture of you and the baby that's gonna be born.
Mia must be really looking forward to the baby. I couldn't help but appreciate Mia, who had drawn such a cute picture.
Thank you, it's really good. I feel better.
Perhaps because she was praised, Mia was unusually shy. But honestly, she's really good. I can't help but think Mia has many talents. Is that just parental bias? Mia took out some worksheets and a pencil case from her backpack and began to do her homework. Several hours later. It was about the time it got dark outside. Thomas came to my hospital room. After a brief chat with Thomas, he and Mia left for home. I heard Joan has been quiet recently. Apparently, she's still looking grumpy with her brows furrowed all the time. They laughed, saying that no one approaches her. About a week of living like that passed. Finally, it was time to give birth. I was extremely anxious, but before I knew it, I was put under anesthesia, and when I woke up, the baby was born. Thomas and Mia were in the hospital room with the baby. They both looked happy that I had woken up. Our new life is about to start. I couldn't contain my excitement. The baby was so cute.
Really? I can't wait to see him.
Since I can't move yet, meeting my baby face to face will have to wait. She must be adorable. Looking forward to that, I awaited the day. 10 days after giving birth, I was able to be discharged from the hospital without any issues. On the day of discharge, Thomas came to pick me up. With his support, I got into the car with the baby.
Are you okay? Can I start the car?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks. As the car Thomas was driving swayed, we headed home. Starting a new life is great, but there were things that made me anxious. That would be Joan. She must be at home. I don't expect her to love the baby unconditionally. I have to do everything I can to protect this child. As I was thinking about various things, we arrived home and opened the door. I'm home. But something felt off. There was no sign of anyone. And the living room, which could be seen from here, seemed a bit more spacious than before. Thomas also seemed to feel a bit strange, and as we cautiously peeked into the living room, our house was entirely empty.
What's going on?
This is. Baffled at first, we quickly guessed who could have done this. It must have been Joan. This did my mother-in-law.
My mom!
What should we do first? We should contact Joan, but I felt the need to get in touch with Mia first. I immediately texted Mia.
Where are you now?
No response came for a while. I was worried, but then I realized she would be in school right now. There had been no word of her missing school, so she should be in a situation where she can't access her phone.
Mia's at school.
Right, of course. We were both too anxious. The lack of response was understandable. Just then, our phone chimed with a notification. The sender was, to our surprise, Mia. Who are you?
I don't have a mom. What?
What? Thomas, who had been looking at the screen with me, also blurted out in surprise. What on earth is happening? An unexpected reply from Mia, saying she had no mother. Everything was strange. We tried to call her quickly, but she didn't pick up. The only message we got from Mia was, "Don't call me.
I'm selling that house. My grandmother says you should leave as soon as possible. We need to go to her house right now and confront my mom."
We quickly got ready and headed towards Joan's house. When we arrived and Thomas rang the doorbell, Joan came out immediately. What's the rush?
Mom, what's the deal with our house?
What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. You also used Mia's phone without her permission, didn't you?
Joan continued to feign ignorance. In her right hand, Joan firmly grasped Mia's cell phone.
Joan, that's Mia's phone, isn't it? Why do you have it?
I'm just holding on to it.
Well, can we take a look then? If you're just holding on to it, you shouldn't have sent any messages. You know, we got a message from Mia's phone just a while ago.
As I pressed her, Joan gradually started to frown. Anyways, let's get inside. We can talk about it there. When Thomas said so, Joan, who seemed to have given up, led us into the room. We sat on the sofa and started to inquire about the room and Mia. But Joan remained silent. She carelessly threw Mia's cell phone and started to cross her legs.
How many times have I told you not to mess with Alice and Mia? Between that and the mysterious message from Mia, I can only think that you're up to something, Joan. Yes, that includes your current attitude. Whenever things don't go your way, you get in a foul mood, just like you always have. It's embarrassing. Just stop it. Embarrassing.
In the end, the conversation was at a standstill. It wasn't Thomas who was in the wrong. It was Joan, who refused to say anything. Out of frustration, I intervened. How long are you going to act like a child? You really are immature. I bet a newborn could communicate better than you. Don't you get it? We're saying that we know you're up to something from the moment you sent that weird message with Mia's phone. I didn't give Joan a chance to talk back, and I said things that tore at her pride. Joan, who fell right into it, openly showed her anger.
Childish? Me? What are you talking about? Yes, I used Mia's phone to send the message and I even cleared out the house. I wanted to teach you a harsh lesson.
At Joan's sudden change, I couldn't help but furrow my eyebrows. Then, Joan continued her rant.
Listen, the whole problem is that you only give birth to girls. I wanted a son to carry on the Joan family name. And Thomas, how dare you lecture your mother? I didn't do anything wrong. It's all Alice's fault for not being able to do anything.
That's when it all clicked. Ever since I announced my second pregnancy, she was in a foul mood, and she had a short temper because I didn't give birth to a boy.
No, it's not Alice's fault. It's all because of you, Mom. You!
Joan, having been harshly criticized by her own son, was becoming redder with anger.
Do you even understand how shameful your actions are? I've been saying it, haven't I? I did nothing wrong.
As usual, Joan didn't bend her opinion. Thomas, after a moment of thought, looked straight at Joan and said,
All right, if that's what you're going to say, then I have something to say too. What is it? Spit it out.
I'm cutting ties with you, Mom.
Ties?
The moment she heard Thomas's words, Joan's complexion noticeably changed. She probably didn't expect her own son to cut ties with her.
Wait a minute. Please reconsider.
After all the havoc you've wreaked on our family, you've got some nerve. I won't change my mind. I'll make sure our relatives know just how terrible a person you are too.
No way. Hold on a minute.
And what happened to our furniture at home? Indeed, where did all the furniture go? There was quite a lot of it, and it couldn't possibly have been managed by Joan alone. I gave all the furniture to the junk removal service. I wanted to upset you, but I only wanted to annoy you a little.
What were you thinking? You probably used Dad's inheritance to do this. It's unfair to Dad to hire such services.
Indeed, he would not have wanted what he left behind to be used for such spite. I can't help but feel Joan is childish. Then give us the money to replace the furniture, Mom. It's not our fault.
I can't. Replacing furniture.
You sold the furniture to the service on your own, right? We don't need to spend our money. Please listen to my last request. As Thomas implored, Joan dropped her gaze, looking utterly dejected. After that, Joan replaced the furniture, they severed ties, and the matter was resolved. Having lost her connection to Thomas, Joan reportedly lost all her spirits. According to a relative who visited her after hearing Thomas's story, her atmosphere was entirely different from before. That relative said, "She was always quite stubborn. Maybe she learned her lesson this time?" So even relatives perceived her that way. Hopefully, this will prompt her to reconsider how she lives her life. Our family is living happily in the house we have been living in. We will no longer be bothered by Joan. We're able to fully engage with our family, and it's fulfilling. Mia watches over the baby with concern, which is adorable. She seems to want to play with them soon. Right. That's what a warm family is. Through this incident, I felt the kindness and reliability of Thomas and Mia. How much have these two supported me? I want to give my all to repay them from now on.